What does he say about Jodi Hildebrandt?
That she's manipulated him in conjunction with Ruby, that she's been kind of the spearhead toward essentially destroying his life and destroying his family.
How did Jodi and Ruby get connected? Does Kevin know?
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Is Kevin believing that perhaps it was Jodi who was manipulating Ruby in this? Or because it also sounds like Kevin feels he was manipulated by Ruby. Is it just all the blame on Jodi?
I think it was a team effort, but with Jodi being the spearhead and creating a situation that's just caused all of this destruction of his family.
Why does he believe that Jodi is manipulative? What makes him believe that?
I probably shouldn't go into that, but we recently reviewed on another website an interview with Jodi's niece, who described to the public exactly what she had done, what Jodi had done to the niece and her family, and we're hearing other information that she's done this to a number of families. And it wasn't until this all came to light that Kevin came to realize that his family had also been victimized by Jodi.
Have the authorities reached out to your client?
Oh, certainly. He's interviewed with them.
And they see him as a potential witness?
They haven't said that. He was interviewed with them the day this all occurred. He drove to St. George to get his children, and they met him and interviewed him.
I guess when people are looking at this, and they know this is not an isolated incident, because you and I both know that the Frankes have been under a close eye for quite some time. There were people who suspected that the kids were being abused or were treated too harshly. So even putting aside the arrest of Ruby Franke, your client was receiving criticism for quite some time over the parenting techniques. What has his response been to that?
There hasn't ever been an allegation that Kevin Franke has ever physically abused his children. And I think all these parenting complaints, those were investigated, and I think it's a subjective thing. Parenting, as everybody says, no one's ever written the perfect book on parenting. And so while there may be some criticism of their parenting as being too strict or too demanding, that's been looked into, and there were never any DCFS charges filed. There was never any criminal charges filed, and particularly, and I want to emphasize this, Kevin Franke has never been accused of physically abusing anyone, including his children, nor have there ever been any allegations that he was doing that. He doesn't condone that kind of thing. He's a good dad. He just simply does not condone physical violence or that kind of treatment of children or anyone.
And he's right now in touch with all of the kids?
That's all being sort of managed by the juvenile court.
Do they want to see him?
I can't tell you. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I know that he's had contact with his two older children, but as to the four younger ones, I even if I knew, I kind of made an agreement with the court that we wouldn't talk about the kids.
What about the older children? What has been the conversations between them and Kevin?
Well, they're kind of on their own, but they've had contact, but I'm not at liberty to disclose those conversations.
I mentioned the criticism that the Frankes were facing. The YouTube channel that they had was shut down. Did Kevin ever explain to you why that happened?
No, I have no understanding as to why that was taken down. I know after these incidents at Ivan's, I believe that a lot of their material was taken down by the platform, but I haven't spoken to Kevin about that. I have no understanding as to what's going on with that right now.
The money that they made off of the show, I think Ruby had claimed at one point they were making a significant amount of money. Has Kevin ever spoken to you about that, about how profitable that show was?
Kevin was simply giving his earnings to Ruby that were going to support the family.
Mm-hmm.
He retained sufficient amounts of money to take care of himself while they were separated, but all the rest of that money was going to Ruby to support the kids. And he hasn't spoken to me about what amount of money was ever generated by that. He actually, pardon the phrase, but he actually disconnected from any involvement with Connections a year and a half ago, and hasn't had anything to do with 8 passengers for even longer than that.
I'm sure you know that there was a hearing last week where Ruby Franke, and I believe it was over Zoom, she made quite the allegations. She said that one of her children was abusing another one of the children, was abusing cousins and neighbors. That is quite the claim. What is your client's take on that?
Well, because it occurred during juvenile court proceedings, the reporter who snuck into the proceedings and reported that damaged these children and this family even more. It was despicable what they did in reporting that, and but because again I have an agreement with the court that I won't speak about the children, and particularly won't speak about proceedings that occurred in the confines, the sanctified confines of that juvenile court. I'm not going to comment on that.
Okay. And Kevin, what are his steps right now to try to get the children back?
He's consulting with professionals. We're working in conjunction with the state of Utah through the juvenile court to work with them, to take direction from them about what they feel would be necessary to heal his family, and try to figure out a way, if possible, to reunify the family.
Has the rest of the family, the older siblings, have they agreed that perhaps that Kevin would be the best person to take care of the minor children?
You know what? I can't speak to that. They've had private conversations with their dad, and I'm just not at liberty to speak about that. I don't want to disturb those private conversations between he and his kids.
Does Kevin plan to attend the rest of this criminal process for Jodi and Ruby, the hearings, potential trial?
Well, the hearings are taking place down in Washington County, down in St. George, which is about a 2.5-hour drive from where Kevin lives. And so most of those he's probably not going to attend. If they require him to attend, he'll go. But my guess is he probably isn't interested in attending those.
Does he plan to cooperate, or is this a situation where he may decide to plead the fifth and protect his rights?
Well, thus far he hasn't been accused of any crimes, and in my view, I don't think he's committed any crimes. So, and he's had pretty much full disclosure through the juvenile court, which my understanding of that discussion, he simply alleged that he hasn't committed any crimes, and I don't believe they believe that he has. The police haven't contacted me. No one's contacted me about him being charged with any crimes. But the system is what it is. We don't know what's upcoming, so we're having to be circumspect about what we say and what we reveal.